I literally just made a video yesterday and posted a video on what happened to Anthropic and the downfall of Anthropic, what made them do everything, all the fucked up shit they did to get Anthropic and Claude to this point. And just today, just a couple of hours ago, they had their sort of like a developer conference called Code with Claude, and they announced a partnership with SpaceX to increase the capacity of what compute they can provide to the users. And this essentially unlocked a lot of things for us as users of Claude, and literally nobody just saw this coming. So let's take a look at what is this deal exactly about. So they announced it at some like a developer conference sort of thing, and I think this is the first time this has happened, and this is what they have hosted yesterday. And in fact, you can find the live stream on YouTube as well, the replay of that. And they are partnering SpaceX to run the models on their compute. So the official, for once, the Claude account is known for like not tweeting all these changes to like their Claude models and stuff. They don't announce all of these things. They have their developers, the dev relation members tweeting on their personal Twitter accounts of like changes to Claude, the negative things, and only the positive things are being shown and tweeted through their official accounts. And this is one step in the right direction. But if we look at the final details, we can see that it's not exactly much at all, in fact. So we've agreed to a partnership with SpaceX that will substantially increase our compute capacity. This, along with other recent compute deals, means that we've been able to increase our usage limits for Claude Code and the Claude API. Effective today, we are doubling Claude Code's 5-hour rate limits for Pro, Max, and Team plans, removing the peak hours limit reduction on Claude Code for Pro and Max plans, and substantially raising our API rate limits for Opus models. So a couple of things here. The doubling of the rate limits for a 5-hour window doesn't increase your total limits. So what they have is a 5-hour window and a weekly limit window. So regardless of how much you use throughout the 5-hour windows, how many 5-hour windows you have initiated, how much of them you fully utilize and not fully utilize, regardless of that, the weekly limits still remain the same based on this. It's just that for each 5-hour rolling window, your limits is now increased, which is now doubled to more, where you can actually use up more of your weekly limits in the same 5-hour window now. So as compared to the previous time, if you were to run out of your limits in like a 1 hour for within that 5-hour window, you should probably be able to use 2 hours of like limits now. And removing the peak hours limit reduction is honestly, they just reversing like whatever they just did like before. Like this was a negative thing that they in fact implemented for the users. It's a negative thing on the users and they're just removing it. That's like the baseline is not even there. They're just removing something that they just added to nerf their models to meet the demand that they couldn't meet before. And now we are back to the baseline again. And for the third point, I'm not too sure what it's talking about, but it's saying something about, I believe it's talking about where users kept hitting the API errors when they were using Opus models. And in fact, yesterday when I was on stream, I kept hitting a 500 error. In fact, I'm not sure if that's related to the rate limit, and rate limit should be a 429 too many requests or something like that, an error code for that. And the one I was getting is a 500, but most of the time, the ones that I kept getting was always 500. In fact, throughout my whole time using Claude, I have not seen a 429 error so far, but it seems like they are just addressing this for the Opus models. And for me, in fact, I don't use Opus models that much. I've always been on Sonnet, and that's the whole reason why I don't get, even I am on the $100 plan, I don't use up the usage that much. And in fact, I am live on stream right now, building the thumbnail maker that I'm using for my YouTube videos, and this is live on stream right now. We are recording this live on stream. You can watch my replays, and I'll be live every day, every weekday on 2 to 5 p.m. Singapore time. You can catch my next stream as well. And from what I've seen so far, I really don't notice much of a difference for the 5-hour window. And in fact, because previously the 5-hour window, I don't run out as much even in the first place. With 4 Claude Code or 6 Claude Code instances running at the same time, I still don't hit the 5-hour limit in the first place. So now that it's doubled, and in fact, just yesterday after I finished my stream, I was using pretty much the whole day, Claude Code the whole day, and I've hit my limit at around 9:30 p.m. yesterday at night, and my limit reset at 10. So effectively, what I did use, even when I was streaming the whole day and using Claude Code the whole day to build this app, I only utilized 95% of the window, which means that out of the 5-hour window, I've used about 4.5 hours of window of the entire usage pool within the 4-hour 30-minute window. And now that is double, which means that it will take me 8 to 9 hours to finish using the 5-hour rate limit window. But that is kind of a good thing for people who are using the rate limits faster and getting for people who exhaust the 5-hour limits way faster. And now they can just, essentially the weekly limits don't change. You can just use up more of your weekly limits way faster now. Our agreement with SpaceX means we will use all of the compute capacity at their Colossus 1 data center. This will give us over 300 megawatts of additional capacity to deploy within the month. And let's take a look at the blog post here. So Elon Musk also announced that XAI will be dissolved as a separate company. So it will be SpaceX AI now and not just SpaceX anymore. So they're just separating it out into a different entity. So it seems like this Anthropic collab is actually linked to the new entity itself, not the SpaceX entity itself. So SpaceX will provide Anthropic with access to the Colossus, one of the largest and fastest deployed AI supercomputers to provide additional capacity for Claude. Oh, this one is interesting. SpaceX and Anthropic have also expressed interest in partnering to develop multiple gigawatts of orbital AI compute capacity. So we might see space data centers soon. This is like one of the first. In fact, I've not heard of this before. This is the blog post from XAI, and in fact, it's still on XAI. No. So this is its own entity now. So SpaceX has signed an agreement with Anthropic to provide access to Colossus, one of the largest and fastest deployed AI supercomputers. Built from the ground up in record time, Colossus delivers unprecedented scale for AI training, fine-tuning inference, and high-performance computing workloads. Features over 220,000 Nvidia GPUs, including dense deployments of H100 and H200 and next-generation GB200 accelerators. The cluster delivers extreme parallel performance for large language models, multimodal systems, scientific simulations, and generative AI at frontier scales. And this is the blog post from Anthropic. We've agreed to a partnership with SpaceX that will substantially increase our compute capacity. This, along with our recent compute deals, means that we've been able to increase our usage limits for Claude Code and the API. We describe these changes and the progress we're making on compute. So they are doubling the 5-hour rate limits, removing the peak hour, and raising the API limits for Claude Opus models. So this is the API limits here for Opus. And this is specifically, it seems like it's talking specifically on the API side of things, not the Claude subscription side of things. So it seems like it's a lot now. It's a 10x increase, in fact. For different tiers, it's for tier 4, it's like a 4x increase. And for the input, and the output is like a 2x. So it's talking about within the month though, but I'm not sure what else will come out of this, because right now what they have announced is purely just the doubling of the 5-hour rate limits, which only addresses the issue of the demand within the 5-hour window, but the total weekly usage still remains the same. And they did address a lot of the issue of the recurring issues like the caching and stuff. I believe that it's fixed now. I've not seen more people complaining about that, and I personally use it. I can't even finish using the maximum. I can't even finish utilizing fully like the whole usage pool in the first place. So they actually recently announced the partnership with Amazon as well. So that's one of the, and Google as well. So they had these two deals together with Microsoft and Nvidia as well, which all together help made this possible, which honestly, I think is a bit underwhelming. Like the fact that they had so many partnerships with so many companies, and the thing that they did was just to remove all the negative things that they did back to the baseline. We train and run Claude on a range of AI hardware, AWS Trainium, Google TPUs, and Nvidia GPUs, and continue to explore opportunities to bring additional capacity online. As part of this agreement, we have also expressed interest in partnering with SpaceX to develop multi-gigawatts of orbital AI compute capacity. Expanding internationally, our enterprise customers, particularly those in regulated industries like financial services, healthcare, and government, increasingly need in-region infrastructure to meet compliance and data residency requirements. Accordingly, some of our capacity expansion will be international. Our recently announced collaboration with Amazon includes additional inference in Asia and Europe. We're very intentional about where we will add capacity, partnering with democratic countries whose legal and regulatory frameworks support investments of this scale, and where the supply chain on which our compute depends, hardware, networking, and facilities will be secure. Finally, we recently made a commitment to cover any consumer electricity price increases caused by our data centers in the US. As part of our international expansion, we were exploring ways to extend that commitment to new jurisdictions, as well as partnering with local leaders to invest back into the communities that host our facilities. So it seems like from just reading this, it seems like they really don't give a fuck about the cheap AI plans anymore. They are declaring here that the enterprise customers are where the money is, where the people who are paying through the API and the people who pay through the subscription plans are not as important anymore. Alright, there was the cursor deal as well. And recently, SpaceX also did an exclusive agreement with SpaceX did an exclusive partnership with Cursor to give them the rights to acquire Cursor later this year for 60 billion or pay 10 billion for the work together. And this was a pretty big deal. This was in fact just last week or maybe 2 weeks back. And I didn't expect this to even lead down to SpaceX doing a partnership with Anthropic as well. So SpaceX is doing a lot right now. And even recently, Grok just released the 4.3 version, which I've not tested it on. And to be fair, I've not seen many people using Grok for code anymore, and people are just defaulting back to OpenAI codecs for code and Anthropic models for code as well. It's just these two main frontier players that people are going to use the models for, and I think that these are the ones that will just stay for a long time. And even now, I feel like Gemini is really falling back. And there was rumors of Gemini releasing, there was leaks of 3.5 Pro or something that's being leaked with rumored and leaked from Gemini that's going to release soon as well. And it's just the standard release cycle where Gemini is the natural next provider that'll be releasing their next frontier model. So we'll see how that goes, and we'll do some reviews on how the performance is as well. From what I see right now, the current state is a lot of people are using either Codex or Claude models for code. And Gemini models have fallen way back because the IDE they have is called anti-gravity, and they have substantially removed and reduced the rate limits that you can use it on. In fact, when I first tested, after they dropped so drastically the rate limits, I've seen so many people complaining on Twitter, and when I tried it, it was so ridiculous. Like I told it to like change some styling or something, and what it did was just to search some things in the code base, and then it just changed like one line, and that used up 20% of my rate limits for the 5-hour window. So pretty much it takes only 5 prompts to just use up the entire window. And not to mention that even GitHub is like moving to an API billing now. So the subsidization era is ending. So I'll do a video on that soon as well. So keep an eye on that.